and we've got no one else to partner with.
Well, did you guys ever consider your dads?
Well, that's a loaded question. Guys, I'll forget it. Hi, I'm Kitty Monk, and I'm here to talk to you about South Park, or more specifically, the Fathers. So it's June, and in addition to pandering to pride people everywhere, we must also take a moment to pander to the deities, or male figures who occupy similar roles, like uncles or teachers, or sugar daddies, or bodega owners. Hopefully yours did not go to the store to buy a pack of smokes and never came back. Because I for one know my father never did that. He's out on a Pokemon journey, and he will come home the moment he finds a female Hitmonchan. If you want to help your daddy, get him a late Father's Day gift. Audible. Audible is a program that allows you to listen to audiobooks, along with podcasts, including Audible Originals. As a new member, you'll be able to choose one title a month from the catalog. The best part about Audible is you get 30 days free, meaning if you decide you don't want to, you can always just stop. Once again, visit audible.com with the link down below, and you'll get a free trial and help support my channel. Now on with the video. So last year, I made a video entitled, Who is the Worst Mom in South Park? Mostly it was to clear up a misunderstanding I felt about Sheila and Linda. That video was fun to make, and it's still one of my favorites. However, many of you still demanded I do a similar video, but in the vein of the South Park Fathers. After all, South Park follows the cartoon trend of having horrible fathers. I guess to save time, because if not we'd be here all day, I'll limit it to the main fathers. Sorry Richard, I'll see you one day, and your stupid ironic name. And it has to be fathers. So sorry Jimbo, and sorry Jack. Meaning that leaves us with Stuart, Steve and Chris, Randy, and Gerald. Cartman does not have a dad. Well, he did, but then he fed him to his half-brother. Yum Yum and the Tum Tum. So, let's discuss. Who is the worst father in South Park? Well, like I said, it's a loaded question. Not making that joke again. See, the problem is, obviously, each of the South Park fathers are terrible in their own way. But who is the most terrible? Steve and Chris. There is no competition, there is no question, it's Steve and Chris. But we have more ground to cover, so I guess I'll save him for last. Okay then, let's rank the South Park fathers from best to worst. And let's start with Stuart.
The staggering payload of frozen waffles you have bestowed upon us. We know that you will send us some good fortune one of these days, even though you sure as hell seem to be taking your sweet time.
You know the bar is low when this guy is the best. Weirdly, if we're talking about realism, the worst to me overall is Stuart McCormick. Stuart is Kenny's father, and is frequently unemployed, spending what little money he earns on drugs and alcohol. It's to the point where Kenny has to use his Mysterion persona just to keep the household running.
We treat our kids better and we don't beat each other up as much.
And we gave our sons allowances and stopped getting high every night.
Actually, speaking of, Stuart is partially responsible for Mysterion and Kenny's immortality curse. He and Carol went to the Cult of Cthulhu meetings to get free alcohol, possibly while Carol was pregnant.
No, we weren't in that stupid group. They just used to offer free beer at their meetings, so we would go. I know it sounds hard to believe, but we were actually really drunk the entire time.
Wow, that sounds fun. I'm sure Kenny appreciated it when he was a fetus. Actually, that could explain why she did not want to drink and Cartman joined Snampla.
But unfortunately, now that I'm pregnant, I can't drink.
There, something happened that cursed Kenny to always come back from the dead when he dies.
We should have never gone to that stupid cult meeting.
Oh, so now you've realized it's bad. Then there's the fact that the McCormick family is always hungry and living in poverty. In the States, we have this holiday called Thanksgiving. Traditionally, it's an awesome sauce holiday, as it's the one day of year where you get no shame for binge eating, unless you're a prisoner going to the electric chair, in which case the day you do go is the only day you are allowed to eat. Unfortunately, Kenny's family rarely gets to partake.
And can't we do a little better than creamed corn? Please bring in more diverse food, children, or else Kenny's family is going to have a pretty corny Thanksgiving.
During Starvin' Marvin, they only had one can of food to split between them. Why? Well, because Kenny had to go in one of those grabber machines in front of the whole town.
Grab a lot, son.
And as he died, his sacrifice was possibly for nothing.
Does anybody have a can opener?
God damn it.
Wow, that sucks. In the episode Chicken Pox, the boys have to stay at Kenny's house as part of a pox party. The party sucks in general, especially because of the food. All they have to eat are waffles.
What kind of side dishes will we be enjoying this evening with our frozen waffles? Am I to understand there will be no side dishes?
And it's all because of Stuart. Even Carol calls him out on it.
Hey, is it my fault you don't know how to cook?
What am I supposed to do with frozen waffles, clam head? You put them in the toaster, you cook them.
You just don't know how to use spices and stuff.
Really, the only employment we know either of them has had was washing dishes. And Carol only did that to have enough money to buy pot. Or in Merry Christmas, Charlie Manson, they only allowed Kenny to go to Nebraska with Cartman in order to steal as much food as he possibly could.
They have leftover turkey. Put some in a bag and bring it home, okay?
Even if by the time he gets back, that food is either gonna be really cold or soggy or both. To make matters worse, Stuart's neglect does not stop and end with Kenny. People sometimes forget he has 2 additional children. His oldest son, Kevin, who's drunk as a skunk despite being the same age as Shelley, and likely Michael, and who frequently fights with his father, and their littlest child, Karen. The only good Karen, next to Karen Smith.
You think you're man enough to fight me?
You're both drunk pieces of both of you sit the down.
Aw, it's an average Friday at the McCormick house. Really, I'm surprised Kevin has not had his own episode. I keep forgetting he even has a name. In season 19, the townsfolk try to revigorate the town by gentrifying the bad part of it. You know, the part of town Kenny's family lives in.
Stuart, come on, your house sucks.
If you people want to turn something into a vibrant arts district, then do it to Randy's house.
My house is nice.
Which kinda makes sense. Yeah, back in the 90s, living by the railroad tracks was considered trashy or poor. But now that's basically a plus because you can just take a train into the city, whether it's just to have a day trip or to get to work. See, I'm from Newark and we have an advantage over all y'all. We have a train station and an airport. We are right there. This new change leads to the McCormicks suffering, despite Karen saying they could always go out and try the town.
But Mommy, they have ice cream.
We can't afford $10 ice cream, all right?
And Stuart is suffering alongside them.
Ha! Told ya. That's how it works in this damn country.
I mean, come on, what have the Romans ever given him but peace and prosperity and wine and roads and Latin lessons? Oh, but Kenny, couldn't he just improve himself? Is helium a transitional metal according to the periodic table of elements? No. That's your answer. Stuart is one of those people who is suffering, yes, and he was dealt a bad hand in life. But he's no better. He simply decides to stay where he's at rather than try and put others to shame by improving himself. Why? Because it's easier. So in a way, things are kind of his fault. In one episode, we learned that Gerald and Stuart used to be friends. In fact, their childhood fort is now Stuart's current home.
It took us damn near 2 years to finish it. Whatever happened to that old hunk of junk? That's where I live now. Oh, right.
They worked at a pizza shop in high school. Gerald got to go to community college, and Stuart did not.
Now, I wasn't lucky. You had rich parents. You got to go to that expensive community college.
Hey, I wanted to be somebody. I wanted to be somebody too.
Yeah, I know Stuart's angry, but I don't know if the writers were aware at the time, but most community colleges allow basically anybody to go, provided you fill out an application and pay the tuition, or do some kind of weird work study or payment plan. Was financial aid a thing back then? Actually, maybe this does relate to the situation. The means to improve himself were arguably right there. But he got jealous and stayed at the shop. until something presumably happened that caused him to lose his job. I guess that makes him similar to Heidi Turner. Heidi learned that her victim mentality was holding her back and let it go in order to become a better person. Stuart lets his victim mentality hold him back like an anchor, and he drags down the people around him. Shady Do-Rags, if you're watching, why don't you review South Park? This is a gold mine. Regardless, I will say that when he's not screaming at his kids or his wife, he does love them on the rare occasions we see them together. He was willing to play ball with Kenny, and later they played airsoft. The problem, he's just too selfish to see past the horizon. Also, he might be an offender. I'm just saying. When you do the math, Carol was like 12 or 13 when Kevin was born, and Stuart was way older than that. Maybe he was a member of NAMBLA. I mean, they owe him a favor for all those sausages they jammed up his rear. The only thing that puts Stuart at number 4 is the type of show he's in. At the end of the day, South Park's a comedy, and most of the problems that McCormick's face are played off as a joke. Any other show, and I'd be comfortable putting Stuart as number 1. Plus, we don't see Stuart as often as the other dads, so maybe it would be a little unfair considering the competition. Alright, now let's move on to number 3. Gerald Broflovski.
Okay, I know it's just guy humor stuff. You know, we can laugh about it here, but it is serious, too. Well, love you, pal. Get to sleep. It's a school night.
Did you talk to him?
Yeah, we talked. It was good.
Honestly, Gerald's probably my least favorite of the South Park fathers, or South Park characters in general, just because of his online activities. Ever since I've become a YouTuber, I've hated him even more for it, since I've had to deal with harassment online. Not harassment like that, but I do get negative comments, which sometimes feel a little rude and get to me. And in fact, there was one guy who sent me a picture on Instagram of me with a schlong in my mouth like Gerald does. That's not funny, guys. In season 20, the South Park students are harassed by an online troll, whose name I can't say because YouTube has censors. So we're just gonna call him the Nightman. Yeah, that works. The Nightman ends up harassing a bunch of students, and even causes Heidi Turner to quit Twitter, which is worse than literal dying. Heidi needs a Dayman, because he's the fighter of the Nightman. A bunch of stuff happens, yada yada yada. Among them, Gerald bullies a Danish activist so badly that she jumps off a building just to make it stop.
Yeah, well, she kind of called him out and said he could never get her to quit social media, and you know, you might say she's asking for it.
And when he finds out, instead of feeling remorse for it, he thinks it's awesome.
Oh my god.
Jerk. He also ends up nearly causing World War III. Like, yeah, he helped to undo it, but we were this close. And Kyle was the one who had to clean up his mess. But you know what's worse than this? The fact he got no comeuppance. And no, Sheila treating him like a toilet for that one episode was not proper comeuppance. It was him covering his behind. Or, I guess, his face. At one point, in order to continue trolling when abroad, he had Ike continue his online activities, telling him what to write. So in a sense, it's like he was doxing him.
So they'll blame your kid?
Nobody cares if a kid trolls. What are they gonna do, get a slap on the wrist?
And when Ike got caught by Sheila, he let him be grounded, just because he did not want his wife to know he was the Nightman. Because Sheila is a troll, and you know Sheila needs her troll toll. What I find most interesting is how even his fellow trolls, who need to pay the troll toll, and who are perfectly happy trolling themselves, call him out for it.
4-2, you got it?
Wow.
Wow, what?
He's gonna have his son sign in and troll for him.
If SkankCon is still out there...
Make him pay that troll toll, swaggins. However, much like Sheila, I will concede that outside of these moments, even if he can be a pretty selfish person, he's generally a good parent because he's probably the most normal. It's just that one season that brings him down for me. Actually, I am considering giving Gerald a bigger video than this, so I might just hold my tongue. As a father, when he's not being selfish, does care about his children, and it's very obvious. For one, he and Sheila adopted Ike after Canada was devastated by the Cola Wars.
It was a tough time for us. It was a tough time for all of Canada. The whole country was devastated by the Cola Wars.
It just seemed we couldn't take care of a baby.
Pepsi or Coke? The big question. Just get rid of all of it and drink Mr. Pip. On the eve of Ike's bris, when he thought Ike was mauled to death, he was super distraught.
Ike wasn't really your brother. He was adopted.
What?
He was not really a Broflovski. He was Canadian. But we loved him all the same.
What's worse is when the Canadian Prime Minister nullified all adoptions and Ike's birth parents came to take him back, Gerald argued all he could to keep his son. Too bad they already covered the Supreme Court in Cripple Fight and also covered Elian Gonzalez with the quintuplets, so Gerald has to give up when the judge sides with Canada, as going against the Prime Minister would take money and time they don't have. They only have a 22-minute runtime, and I guess he's unaware about City Airlines. Obviously, Gerald's distraught, and Kyle relays it to the boys.
My family is devastated. My mom just walks around the house like a zombie and my dad can't stop crying.
Then there's his relationship with Kyle. Usually, Gerald's pretty good to Kyle. I mean, he did ensure that Kyle was not born in Jersey by moving with Sheila back to South Park.
We knew we had to get out. Neither one of us wanted a child to be from Jersey. So we moved as far away as we could.
Oh, but come on! Jersey's not all that bad. So what if there's high taxes and you have to buy shopping bags when you go to see operas, and we don't have a Central Jersey and it's Taylor ham, not pork roll? Their relationship is completely fine, even if he endangered his family by moving to San Francisco and creating a cloud of smog, and he also made a law to ban cats in the town of South Park, only to start cheesing again when Kyle tried to confiscate one of Kenny's cats. Still, the best Kyle and Gerald episode by far for me is Human Sentai Pad. Kyle gets an iPad back before everybody and their infant had one, likely because Gerald can afford one, unlike Leanne. Unfortunately, Kyle doesn't read the terms and conditions for the newest update. Idiot. And he ends up at the mercy of Apple, who want to use him as part of their new device, the titular Human Sentai Pad. Obviously not wanting such a fate, because he saw how terrible the third movie was compared to the previous two, he tries to take refuge in Gerald's office, and Gerald is happy to provide him with some legal and moral advice.
But it's like 8 pages long and they send me a new one like every 3 weeks. How can they know if
Calm down, Kyle. It's okay. You're safe with Daddy.
Aw, too bad Apple comes to take Kyle, as they are better at tracking people than the NSA, and the NSA has Santa, and they don't let Gerald stop them.
Hey, now, let him go. Ah!
Dad, you tasered my dad!
You said we could.
I mean, they're right in a way, Kyle. Gerald tries to do whatever he can to get Kyle back, but first things first. He must look through the contract Kyle unwittingly agreed to.
There can't be anything in that agreement that allows a company to do what they're talking about to Kyle.
By clicking agree, you are also acknowledging that Apple may show your mouth to of another iTunes user.
Realizing going to the cops is not an option, Gerald decides to go straight to Apple. And this is bad for him because he's a PC user.
Apple's inner workings are top secret to all users. You know how it is.
No, I don't know how it is. I use a PC.
What?
I know. The only good part is he doesn't have to buy an HDMI adapter whenever he goes to conventions. Lucky. Gerald goes to the unspoken, unknown world that is the Apple Store.
Hi, my name is Leslie. I'll be your genius.
Much to Gerald's shock, the Genius Bar has to run all kinds of magical, Doctor Who-inspired tests in order to free Kyle, as they obviously don't want a new Apple-approved friend. What, it's not Doctor Who? It's Dark Crystal and Star Trek? Wow, maybe I'm not a nerd. And what part does Gerald have to play? He has to switch everything over to Apple.
How do we do that?
It's very easy. You'll simply need to join Apple.
No, I don't want to join Apple. I like my PC.
Oh no, how awful. It's not like everything's gonna be seamlessly connected and he'll get to FaceTime people and use Final Cut Pro. It's a fate worse than getting tickets to the Kimmel Academy of Music. Still, he was willing to do it to free Kyle.
Gerald Broflovski, do you agree to let Apple track your location at all times?
I agree.
And by the end, Gerald even used his newfound knowledge to talk Steve Jobs out of trying to continue experiments on the human-sent iPad.
Mr. Jobs, you have done so much for the world. This is the future. But can't we just slow down and enjoy the present?
You know, I'm actually surprised that the geniuses were able to help, all things considered. Have you ever actually spoken to Apple customer service? It's like talking to a brick wall. Alright, now that we've covered Gerald, it's time to cover the second most controversial South Park father. You might hate me for this, but it's Randy Marsh.
I'm coming, son!
Oh god, I can make a whole video on this dude. And I have. A third might be incoming one day. Anyhow, Randy as a father. At the beginning of the show, Randy was a normal father by South Park standards. He was just there. There wasn't anything major to him, and he went along with the flow of things. As time progressed, he became, well, let me explain. The reason it took so long for this video to come out is I had no idea who to put as number one, Randy or Steve and Chris. Steve and Chris is equal parts realistic, equal parts comical. Meanwhile, along with Peter Griffin, Randy is basically the modern day codifier for bad cartoon fathers. A destructive, selfish idiot who endangers everybody around him and is married to a neurotic wife, who often has to parent him, to the detriment of her own mental health. Still, Steve and Chris lost out for a couple of reasons. One, Randy tends to be more entertaining. Yes, Randy has gone down in recent years, but that doesn't mean he's never had a good episode. Two, Randy also has more of a character, which does get explored. And finally, while Randy can be destructive and Stan often has no respect for him, freely calling him an idiot, Randy loves him in spite of that. The biggest example for me is something you can do with your finger. Well, I haven't discussed this episode yet. That's weird. Cartman has a dream that they need to form a boy band in order to get rich and famous, because Christian rock has clearly died out and Napster still existed back then. Is the official putlocker for music. Stan is excited to join, and he tries to tell Randy, who is not having it.
Oh, well, that sounds nice.
No, it does not sound nice. Stanley, you are going to have no part in that boy band.
Well, but Dad, all my friends are doing it.
If all your friends jumped off a cliff, would you do that too?
Well, imagine how he's gonna react when Stan says he wants to join the basketball team instead of the 4th grade musical. Stan tries to persevere in spite of his father and his weird refusal to let him join a boy band. The thing is, as we saw in the episode, Stan has like 0 chance of actually making it. Even Sharon points out it's on the level of him and his friends playing pretend.
Randy, calm down. It's just a silly little dream. They're not going to actually make it.
And what if they do make it, Sharon? What if they do make it? Are you going to be the one to tell them?
Plus, as we know from later episodes, Stan isn't somebody who sells himself out for fame, unless it's about bullying. But hey, I guess he learned his lesson. It's either that or go to San Diego. So the reason why Randy refuses continues to perplex Stan, and Randy eventually confesses why. Long ago, before he became a geologist, Randy was in a boy band.
Don't understand. Just let me go do this one thing and I won't.
No!
Oh no, imagine the shame. He had lots of riches and lots of classy ladies to roll around instead of, actually do. Too bad that much like Sarah Lynn, he just had to age up by a year.
Kid, you're just getting a little old to be in a boy band.
I'm 19.
Get a life, Marsh!
I know it sucks. He lost everything and he did not want that for Stan.
Because all the fame, the money, the women, all it did was build me up so that I could be knocked down harder than anybody in the world. It's people smothering you and embracing you and loving you and then spitting you out and throwing you away like you were last night's pork chops.
Randy, stop scaring me about what my life might amount to. However, Randy realizes he wasn't scared for Stan, he was jelly, because he's gone to Tim Hortons, not Dunkin' Donuts. He decides to make it up to him.
Well, come on. I'll drive you down to the mall.
Really?
Yeah, I want to see what you guys can do. And then we'll go buy you a small toy so that you can forget all about this.
All right.
Well, I'm sure Stan prefers the last one. To repay his father, Stan lets him be the 5th member of their group, because Kenny died.
We made $2. You were great, Dad.
Yeah, I guess I still got it in me a little.
Another episode that often goes unrecognized is The Losing Edge. Wow, another one I have yet to discuss. This video's something. Actually, The Losing Edge is one of my favorites. The boys compete in baseball, the worst sport ever because it's super long, and they hate it.
All the other teams are worse than us.
Yeah, let's face it, we're winners.
As a child, the whole point of baseball is to lose, because if you win, you waste your whole summer playing, and they can't just tell their parents they hate it. For Butters, he will get grounded.
You mean throw the game? You know how our parents are about this sport. Yeah, my dad always said it's okay to lose, but if you don't try, you're grounded, mister. Yeah.
For everybody else, they don't want to disappoint them.
Oh no. Dad, we need to talk.
Can you believe it, Stan? The state championship game.
God damn it.
Which is weirdly sweet, I hate to say, at least they get pizza after. It's Stan's game. Randy takes the opportunity to pick fights with the other fathers, often getting arrested in the process.
I was really stuck it to him.
You're out. How much was bail this time?
$100, no big whoop.
One of those fathers is Bat Dad.
Come on, Denver. Get the lead out. Do not cross the Bat Dad.
Holy crap, it's Judah. The reason I picked this episode is because near the end, Randy's right for the wrong reasons. When Randy hears that Stan's going to the state championships, he doesn't want to go to the big game.
Stan's Little League game, I'm not gonna go.
You don't think you can? This is the biggest game of your son's life. Why wouldn't you go and support him with...
Because I'm scared, alright?
And honestly, if he didn't go, things would be so much better, because I'm sure Stan would be more comfortable just saying, "Dad, I don't want to do this anymore." However, at the last moment, Randy supports Stan. Damn it, support. But Randy does kind of help. The boys discover that the parents acting aggressive means instant disqualification, and they egg on Randy to fight with all of his might. It's actually kind of cool.
You have to fight!
All right, come on, let's play ball.
Randy!
It works. Randy being a bad dad was actually a good thing. Finally, I can't go without mentioning Make Love, not Warcraft. Stan is playing World of Warcraft, a game that's surprisingly still played today.
I'm logged on to an MMORPG with people from all over the world and getting XP with my party using TeamSpeak.
Just saying, I was surprised to learn a few of my friends still play it, and they say the game's nothing like South Park makes it out to be. Like, they get some things right, but most things not really. Indulging Stan, Randy starts to play too, even if he's a noob.
But in here, I am Falcorn, defender of the Alliance.
I've braved the Fargo Deep Mine, defeated the Bloodfish at Jared's Landing.
Really, Stan should have thought twice about making the channel password a Minecraft question. He should know Randy loves video games. Too bad there's a griefer lurking, and he keeps killing all of the player characters.
How do you kill that which has no life?
I know who to call. Midberry Crunch. He's an immortal, but oh no! His efforts mean that World of Warcraft will meet the same fate as Clough Penguin, but much like MySpace, everybody will log off of their own accord, rather than be forced to. You know, it sucks they couldn't just tell Gerald about him. Apparently that dude was one of the people that Gerald trolled with. The boys spend days, if not weeks on end, trying to level up enough XP to defeat the Griefer by just killing boars. Imagine if those were real boars, they would have meat for days. Because everybody knows a piece of meat a day, lady parts won't grow on your face. Sorry, no offense to any potential vegans and vegetarians, it's just that was an episode I watched last night. At the last minute, Randy helps them out. The game developers tell him there is one thing that can defeat anybody, the Sword of 1,000 Troops. With it, you can completely drain a player's mana.
To bring you this sword can completely drain his mana.
Dad, how did you get that?
No time, just take it.
and I myself have never played World of Warcraft, even if I wanted to, meaning I am an even bigger noob than Randy. But I guess that somehow leaves him defenseless. Regardless, Randy and the game developers log onto a demo version of World of Warcraft at Best Buy and give Stan the sword, and they win! Awesome, right? Yeah, to be fair, there are ways that Randy was brought down to the second spot. He might love Stan, but he still endangers him or annoys the heck out of him. Much like Kyle and Gerald, Stan often has to clean up Randy's messes, probably just as much as Sharon. Like in Bloody Mary, Randy's convinced that alcoholism is a terminal illness that will kill him one day.
Drinking and driving is for idiots. Nobody wants to end up like Stan's dad, do they?
The blood to remake will flow for all time. The blood to remake will flow for all time. And yes, it's on the TV as I say that. He forces Stan to take care of him, even shaving his head and putting a blanket over his lap. Hey, it gets called. Even if Stan points out Randy isn't an alcoholic in the sense that if he stops drinking, he'll die from the shock. He just doesn't have any self-control when it comes to drinking.
I hate my illness!
Dad, you just need to not drink so much. It's very simple.
I wish it was that simple, son.
When he hears about the Virgin Mary statue, he forces Stan to drive him there, as his license is suspended.
Then you drive.
I'm 8.
This is my only hope, Stan. Either you drive this car or I will.
Also, it's like Bobby and Dee Dee. Or in Nightmare on FaceTime, Randy drains the family finances to buy a Blockbuster.
Can you believe it? Completely turnkey! You got your sci-fi, comedies, buddy flicks, chick flicks, all on Blu-ray or DVD.
Which, I hate to say, would be kind of a good investment if he did what those people in Oregon did and tried to make it a touristy trap, rather than an actual video store. Hey, that place is equal parts museum, equal parts store, and they do fine.
I'm coming, son!
And finally, Integrity Farms. Need I say more? Well, I guess I should. Wow, this might be the longest section.
What are you doing, Shelly?
Nothing, Dad. Go back to killing the family.
Okay. Stan!
Which, is it because Shelly's based on Trey's sister who used to bully him? Is that why we never hear from her? Much like Stan, Randy loves her, but he has his moments. First off, he never seemed to notice Shelly beating up Stan in season 1. Second, Shelly thinks he doesn't like her.
Why are you always taking Stan's side? You're always acting like Stan can't do anything wrong. You don't even try to know me, Dad.
I want to, Shelly!
Wow, I wonder what gave that away. Probably the biggest episode that comes to mind is Broadway Brodown. Randy discovers that Broadway musicals are a vehicle to brainwash women into hummering like a tanning bed. While this is going on, Shelly is developing a romance with Harry Vegan. A vegan. Oh my gosh, she's dating a giant lady part. Well, Randy and Stan think.
Okay, what's Shelly doing?
I gave her those tickets to Wicked. She's seeing it with her little boyfriend. It's Shelley's first Broadway musical.
Ah! Shelly!
To help, he dresses up as Rafe Carney before Hadestown, but before Penny Dreadful, and unintentionally floods the theater. This kills Larry as he couldn't swim and only relied on his life preserver, which Shelley encouraged him to get rid of.
Spider-Man works in mysterious ways, Shelly, and wherever he is, he loves you.
Now, I am conflicted on how I feel about it. On the one end, yeah, it's good Randy's looking out for his little girl, but it's pretty clear Randy's overreacting. Shelly doesn't seem that enthralled the same way Sharon and all those other women were. Besides, Sharon gave her the tickets, not Larry. I don't know, maybe if there was a part where it seemed like Shelly was about to do something inappropriate or was like snuggling up against him, I could get Randy's actions. But it does seem like overkill. I guess the Lord storyline is another thing to talk about. Randy is cosplaying as Lord, who turns out to be Shelly's idol, but he doesn't want to tell her.
Lord doesn't sound so great in person.
That doesn't matter, Dad. We love Lord because he's real. God, you guys don't understand anything.
When Randy does something really gross at a concert, as Lord, Shelly's distraught. so he makes it up to her later by telling her about his secret identity.
All the music you've really been into has been me. Nobody in the family knew except for your mother, and your brother, and your grandpa. But Michael Jackson's hologram is here and we're gonna set the record straight, okay? Love you.
Yeah, it's not like it could have been a meaningful moment or anything. And finally, we're done with Randy. Time to move on to the final candidate. Steven Stotch, aka Steven Chris, because they changed his name a bunch of times. If there's a terrible, awful, disgusting father in South Park, it's Steven Chris. Randy has his moments, Gerald is stuck up, Stuart smells of elderberries. Steven Chris, he's the worst. You suck! Yep. Preach it, Beavis. And it's for one simple reason. Love. Or lack thereof. See, while I think actions speak louder than words, I do still think your reasoning for those actions and the emotions that go along with them play a role. I don't know, it's confusing. See, something I will say all of the South Park fathers have in common is, at the end of the day, they do love their children deep down. And they have all gotten at least one moment to prove it. With Steven Chris, I see no evidence. Not even in the Airsoft episode, because I don't think he was in that episode. Literally, there's only one episode where he cares about Butters the way you should with a child. During the Bike Parade 2-parter, Steven Chris takes a job at the South Park Amazon Fulfillment Center, which comes around the same time Amazon a good portion of local businesses, like the coffee shop.
We didn't really have a choice. Since the fulfillment center opened, me and my wife's coffee business has gone belly up.
Tasted like crap anyways. $100 is the way to go. He's committed to doing it, despite the monotony and the tedium, because he gets those good Amazon Prime deals.
What are you saying? That our family needs cash? You want to go live with Kim Kardashian? She's better than me because she's got money?
Later, when the Amazon workers decide to strike over what Amazon did to Josh, another co-worker, Steven is one of the few to scab. Not because he disagrees with the strike, but because Butters needs the parts from Amazon for his bicycle.
It's my son! If those orders get fulfilled, then we got nothing! He's just a kid! He wants to be in the bike parade!
A runner-up is, weirdly, the episode with all of the drones. He and Butters had bonded over that sport. Later, Cartman encourages Butters to use the drone to take a video of Laura Tucker.
Butters, did you hear the drone making any sounds in the garage?
Who knew, Dad? I'm just being sleepy.
Get back to sleep, pal. Love you.
Love you too.
And strangely, Steven Chris never suspects him. It's all for humor, but knowing how he once read Butters the riot act for misplacing a couple of things in the pantry, this is pretty major.
Did you consider that your son might have done that? No, it's impossible. He's not allowed to fly it without my supervision.
But this is the limit. To me, what makes Steven Chris the worst parent is how he treats his son. Whenever Butters does anything wrong, real or imagined, he grounds him. For days or sometimes even weeks. I mean, in the future specials, he was grounded for 16 years. He can't watch TV, do anything fun, can't have dinner, or leave his room. In those rare times when Steven Chris actually cares about Butters enough to help, it only makes things worse, and not in a loving kind of way like Randy. There was one time he thought Butters was gonna jump off a building, and instead of just trying to comfort him or assure him life was worth living, this is what he said.
Just come down now, son, and we promise we won't ground you for more than a couple weeks.
Oh, jeez.
Well, no wonder he took the D. The only time the groundings were a good thing was during franchise prequel, where he dragged Butters all the way to the country that must not be named, back when there was no conflict and we could still go there, and ground both Butters and the president for spreading misinformation on Facebook.
I hope you're both very satisfied with the damage you've caused, because you're both grounded!
When he's not grounding Butters, he is normally pretty neglectful. In preschool, he insisted that Butters go play outside. Around the same time, Trent Boyette is coming to terrorize him and the boys.
Butters, play!
He hears Butters screaming outside and does nothing about it.
What on earth is the matter with him?
Just keep the door locked, honey. Butters can't be a house hermit his whole life.
Later, in the hospital, he could not care in the slightest.
Why Why didn't we let him inside the house when he was screaming for help?
Now, honey, we were trying to be.
The worst episode for me, overall, is Sarcastable, which is a pretty good 22-minute lesson on why we should be funding health classes. Because Steve Chris is too squeamish to teach Butters about his body or the fact he goes through puberty, he makes him think that his man Jelly is creamy goo.
I was having happy dreams about a girl.
All right, Butters, it's happy feelings. Let's just not talk about it.
Okay, Dad.
Too bad he doesn't live in a world full of samenness, because they make pills that eliminate those awful stirrings. As a result, Butters has begun to collect it into jars and sells it as an energy booster. Ew! When Randy discovers the truth,
And you can just sit here in your room and think about what you've done. Any questions?
What's sarcasm?
We'll talk about that when you're older.
now yeah, Butters did something wrong, but the fault still lies with Steve and Chris for not teaching him about his body. Later, he does get a second chance when Butters asks about the Christmas tree and his pants, and he doesn't take it.
That's just the friendly compass. See, whenever you have friends in the area, your little compass there tells you where they are. It's pointing up because Jesus is your friend.
You know, I've been using that ever since I saw this episode, but I guess nobody learned their lesson from the Red Rocket incident. Or what about Paris Hilton? She wants to buy Butters for millions, and Steve Chris is all for it. He's the one to get Linda to agree.
But he's our son.
I know, darling, but look, we have to think about the rest of the family.
The rest of the you mean us?
Yes, us, the rest of the family.
Butters protests, and they offer him a deal.
You can raise the $250 million yourself. You can stay.
Well, how am I supposed to make that kind of money?
And when Butters discovers that all of Paris's pets commit unalive, he decides to run away. And he gets grounded for it. Good thing there was an episode where Butters got revenge on Steve and Chris.
I know that. What do you...
This is for all the times I got grounded.
Oh! Oh!
Yeah, it's as a video game, but it still happened. He's a bad man. Then let's go to those times he tries to help. In City Sushi, he thinks Butters has multiple personality disorder, and he forces him to go to a psychologist who actually has it, and who makes the best Chinese food in town. Or when Butters thinks Cartman is a ghost, he takes him to a doctor who probes him for hours on end. In addition to grounding him. Heck, he was the one who sent him to the conversion camp. No, I might be missing a moment or two, but you get the gist. Steve and Chris sucks. But why? Well, I think Butterballs provided an explanation. Not an excuse or a justification, but an explanation. Butters' grandma comes to visit, and despite seeming like a sweet old lady, we learn she's really a bully.
What's up? Huh? You think you're tough, huh?
I just don't want you to pick on me no more, Grandma.
Apparently she's doing all of this in order to toughen Butters up, which is not good. Although it kinda works because Butters has a freak out on the Dr. Oz show. A few people have said that this episode could explain why Steve and Chris turned out the way he did. And alright, that's fair. But as I said with Stuart, this doesn't make up for what he did to his son. Meaning, in short, Steve and Chris sucks. All of the fathers do. Maybe not to the same extent, but they all do. I haven't said it yet, but happy Father's Day. Go play Airsoft and say hi to your Uncle Jimbo, because he's the person you should be going to for advice and for money.
What do you want from McDonald's?
Chicken nuggets and fries, sweet and sour sauce, and icy orange.